Imagine this. You buy a 10-unit building, fix it up, raise the rents, and refinance it 2 years later. You walk away with $230,000 tax-free and still have over $430,000 in equity. Oh, and the property also cash flows at over $2,500 per month. And the craziest part, you didn't invest a single dollar of your own money. Does that sound impossible? Well, that's exactly the deal my business partner and I completed a few years ago. In this video, I'm going to walk you through every single detail of that deal, how we found it, funded it, fixed it, and turned it into a cash-flowing, equity-loaded asset using the BRRRR strategy. And I'm also going to give you actionable tips for how you can execute a deal like this yourself so that you can grow your wealth and reach financial freedom faster. Let's break it all down. The property in question was a 2-story, 10-unit brick building located in a working-class neighborhood in one of the smaller cities near Albany, New York. The structure itself stretched like a long rectangle across nearly half a block. There were 5 apartments on the first floor and another 5 directly above them on the second floor, totaling approximately 14,000 square feet. Each unit was separately metered for gas and electric, which meant that the tenants were responsible for their own utilities. There was also a house meter that covered the electric and gas of the common areas. At the time we found the property, 3 of the 10 apartments were completely vacant. Most of them had been sitting empty for 6 months, and one of them may have been vacant for more than a year. The 7 occupied units were renting at rates between $540 and $850 per month, which we immediately recognized as severely under market given the unit sizes and the location. 4 of the tenants had their rent paid by a local nonprofit, which provided various forms of assistance and oversight, but even those units were renting well below what the open market would support. The seller was a working-class man in his late 50s or early 60s. He had bought the building nearly 27 years earlier with a business partner and had taken over full ownership at some point, likely after buying out his partner. He was self-managing the building and handling all the maintenance himself, and after almost 3 decades of doing everything on his own, he was clearly burned out. It was the only property he owned, and it had become more of a burden than a source of income. He was done. We found the seller through a direct mail campaign we had launched. In the campaign, we targeted individual property owners, not LLCs or other entities, who had owned their buildings for many years and were not living in them. These were the types of landlords we felt were more likely to be mom-and-pop operators, which meant there was a higher likelihood of deferred maintenance, under-market rents, and the potential for a favorable deal. Each postcard we sent was personalized with the owner's name and the address of the property. We explained who we were, emphasized that we were local buyers, and outlined the benefits of selling directly to us. No commissions, no appraisals, a clean cash offer, and no need for inspections. This seller reached out after receiving one of those postcards. We scheduled a meeting, toured the building, and saw exactly what we were hoping to find. The property was in rough shape cosmetically, but structurally solid. It had multiple vacancies, low rents, and a landlord who had clearly checked out. This is exactly the kind of situation that is ideal for a BRRRR strategy. As I'm sure you know, BRRRR stands for Buy, Rehab, Rent, Refinance, and Repeat. The goal of this strategy is to find a deal that has a value-add component, perform the necessary changes to increase the value, and then do a refinance of the property and get all of the initial capital back out to use on another deal. This strategy allows you to recycle the same pool of money over and over again while you grow your real estate empire. And it is solely responsible for me growing my rental portfolio from 9 units in 2017 to over 200 units as of the middle of 2025. Anyway, back to this deal. Our initial offer was $325,000, which the seller declined. He told us he felt that the building was worth closer to $425,000. That response was actually very encouraging to me because even at his number, there was clearly a lot of upside. After a few more meetings and some back and forth negotiations, we landed on a final purchase price of $375,000. We agreed to buy it as is without any contingencies or inspections. At that price, and with the information we had, the risk was well worth it. We estimated that we would need around $100,000 on top of the purchase price to complete the necessary repairs, cover closing costs, and maintain sufficient reserves while we worked on stabilizing the property. In total, we were looking to raise $475,000. Fortunately, by that point, I had built a solid relationship with several private lenders. These were individuals who were either former business associates, family connections, or referrals from friends. These were people who trusted us because we had demonstrated a strong track record on previous projects. I presented them with this opportunity, explained the numbers, and they agreed to fund the entire $475,000. The loan was structured for a 1-year renewable term with a 10% interest rate and interest-only monthly payments, which came to $3,958.33 per month. With the financing in place, we proceeded to closing. The title came back clean, and we finalized the purchase at our attorney's office within a month of going under contract. Once we closed, the first priority was to turn over the vacant apartments and get them rented at market rates. Our in-house contractor crew got to work immediately. Each of the 3 vacant units required only cosmetic rehab, some drywall repair, full interior paint, minor plumbing fixes, new flooring, and new appliances. We were able to repaint and reuse the existing kitchen cabinets, which were still in good condition structurally. We also completed a few key capital improvements. We had our team coat the flat roof, which covered about 7,000 square feet, and replaced several furnaces and hot water tanks that had either failed or were on their last legs. Altogether, the initial round of renovations cost us around $25,000. Because we had our own crew and did not need to hire a general contractor, our costs were substantially lower than what most investors would face. But even for someone paying full retail for contractors, this deal would still have made sense given the purchase price and the upside. We also implemented a clever layout modification that significantly increased the rental value of the 2-bedroom units in the building. All of them had large living rooms in the front and oversized dining rooms in the center. Given that the kitchens were spacious enough to accommodate a dining area, we decided to convert the living rooms into 3rd bedrooms. This involved framing a new wall, installing a door, adding a closet, and finishing it with drywall and paint. It was a simple change that didn't require permits or major construction work, but it increased our rent substantially because 3-bedroom units command higher rents than 2-bedroom units in this area. While the rehab was underway, we began addressing the under-market rents of the existing tenants. All of them were on month-to-month leases, which gave us the flexibility to either raise rents or begin non-renewals. Some tenants were already behind on rent, and we initiated eviction proceedings where necessary. For the others, we issued rent increase notices and provided reasonable timeframes for them to either accept the new rates or vacate. In the case of the 4 tenants whose rent was being paid by the nonprofit, I scheduled a meeting with their case managers and explained that the building's rents were significantly below market. After some discussion, they agreed to a moderate rent increase. It wasn't quite market rate, but it allowed us to keep the units occupied without the cost of vacancy and turnover. Over the next 6 months, we completed renovations on the remaining units, executed all of the rent increases, and brought the building to full occupancy at significantly higher rents. Our second round of renovations and miscellaneous costs came to about $25,000, and our total holding costs, including utilities, taxes, insurance, and loan payments, added another $30,000 during the stabilization period. By the time we were fully stabilized, here's what the rent roll looked like. 6 units rented at $1,100 each per month. 3 units rented at $950 each per month, and 1 unit rented for $880 per month. That brought our total monthly rental income to $10,330. On the expense side, we were paying the following amounts broken down on a monthly basis: $3,958 in private lender payments, $1,321 in property taxes, $142 for insurance, $209 for flood insurance, $450 for water, $50 for common area utilities, $516 per month each for repairs and maintenance, vacancy, and capital expenditures, which together total $1,548, $100 for legal and eviction reserves, and another $50 for accounting. All in, our monthly expenses were about $7,828, which left us with $2,502 in cash flow each month. We continued to operate the building like this for 2 years. The private lenders were happy with their returns, so they renewed their loans annually. And because we had no money of our own in the deal, there was no rush to refinance. But eventually, we decided it was time to lock in long-term debt and pull out some of the equity we had built. We applied for a commercial loan through our local credit union. Because the property had more than 4 units and was held in an LLC, this had to be a commercial loan. The terms were standard: 80% loan to value based on the appraised value, 25-year amortization, and a 5-year interest rate reset. We conservatively estimated that the building would appraise at $900,000 and requested a $720,000 loan. But when the appraisal came back, the value came in much higher: $1,150,000. We still kept the loan at $720,000, which left $430,000 of equity in the building. We used the loan to pay off our $475,000 in private notes, covered about $15,000 in closing costs, and took the remaining $230,000 as cash out. That meant my partner and I each received $115,000 in tax-free funds because it was borrowed against the equity of the building and not income. The best part, our new monthly mortgage payment at 4% interest was only about $3,800, lower than what we were paying in interest-only payments to our private lenders. So not only did we pull out a substantial amount of cash, but our monthly cash flow actually increased to around $2,650. Now, if we were doing this refinance in today's interest rate environment, say at 6.8%, our cash flow would be about $1,000 less. But even in that scenario, we would still have $0 invested, still walk away with $230,000 in cash, still hold over $430,000 in equity, and still generate around $1,300 per month in positive cash flow. Would I still do that deal? Absolutely. It would still be a phenomenal return. So what are the main takeaways from this case study that you can implement in your investing strategy? First, you make your money on the buy. Finding off-market deals and negotiating directly with sellers is absolutely crucial. You're not going to find deals like this on the MLS. Second, the property needs to have value add potential. In this case, we had tired ownership, low rents, and light rehab needs. All 3 factors contributed to a massive equity lift. Third, private financing is essential for scaling the BRRRR strategy. But you can't just ask strangers for $475,000. You have to earn that kind of trust by proving yourself over time. Start with smaller deals, demonstrate success, and build a reputation. That's why I created my free House Hack Mastery group on school.com. If you're just getting started, house hacking is the fastest and safest way to build your track record. It's the way I started and how I was able to work my way up to larger and more complicated deals like the one I'm talking about in this video. Inside the group, I share exclusive content and take direct questions from members. While the group is still small, you'll have the best chance to connect with me one-on-one. The link is in the description below. Finally, you need a system for handling renovations and management. You can't scale if you're swinging hammers yourself. Build a team, create systems, focus on growing your portfolio, and not on fixing toilets. I've met numerous landlords over the years who pride themselves on personally responding to all of their tenants' maintenance needs. They get a call of a plumbing leak or a broken appliance, throw on their tool belt, and head off to the property to make the repairs. But unfortunately, these landlords are never able to acquire any more than a handful of properties, and they give themselves a part-time job to do in the process. By saving $20 to $30 per hour by doing the maintenance labor themselves, they are in fact losing hundreds or more likely thousands of dollars per hour by not working on the tasks that could get them their next deal. They are literally stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. Don't do that. Build a team, leverage other people's work ethic, knowledge, and expertise, and your journey of investing and growing wealth through real estate will be much more enjoyable for you. And if you're just starting out and want to learn how to make your first $100,000 in real estate fast, check out this video I recently posted on my channel explaining 3 ways you can do just that. Tap or click the screen, and I'll see you there.